What's happening, people? Happy Sunday. Thank you all for joining me today for our Soul Healing Satsang. Thank you for joining in, tuning in, turning on, getting prepared for today's Satsang, our truth holding conversations here at Rebuild Foundation Live. Thank you so much. If you are new, if you are returning, thank you for being here. Just in general, thank you for being here. And no matter where you are in the world, I hope you are having a wonderful, wonderful day. My name is Stacey Patrice at Soul Yogini SP here on Instagram. And every Sunday is where I take over at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time for our weekly Soul Healing Satsang. I've gotten a lot of messages over the weeks. We're in episode 21, I believe, of this broadcast. And I've gotten a lot of messages over the week like, what the heck is a satsang? So just to clear this up, I come from a lineage of yoga, classical yoga, that I've been teaching here on the south side of Chicago and around the world at festivals and events for the past 9 years. And as I've been doing this, I have incorporated a lot of yogic teachings into the processes and conversations and lifestyles that are promoted and shared, not only by my students and clients, but by people who are just well-meaning people around the world. And so we try and keep that information, that vibration going. So satsangs are simply truth gatherings that allow us to come together and allow us to explore topics that are relevant and that affect us and give us an opportunity to kind of share, engage, and work those things out, as well as maybe learn something new about ourselves and transform in the process. So welcome. So today is conversation 2 of 5 for the month of August. Every Sunday, I'm doing a conversation that builds on the previous conversation. And this particular month, we're really delving into consciousness. I think it's one of the most important things that we can talk about right now. It's one of the most important aspects of our lives that's being not only challenged and confronted in certain areas, but also something that maybe, we assumed would just kind of follow us and be where we needed to be at the times where we needed it. And a lot of people are discovering that now they have to actually just jump in. They don't have the time to prep, to prepare, to say, I think I want to be more conscious. They just have to dive fully in because life is diving fully in right now. Yes. So the idea here is that we are talking about consciousness. Last week in the Satsang, we talked about spiritual tools and how having your own set of spiritual tools to support you is what it is that's required for you to start making that walk, start meeting yourself where you are, start to bridge that gap between where you are and where you would like to be. Give yourself an opportunity to look at how those tools can help you bridge that gap or help you build the bridge that is the gap currently. And we talked a lot about that last week. If you're looking for the replay of the Satsangs, you can look on Rebuild Foundation's IGTV, or you can go to my website, staceypatrice.com, where the entire archive of Satsangs in full is displayed. And so today we're talking about timing. And specifically, I want to use the words divine timing as what we are discussing today and why it's important. So how does timing play into consciousness? I don't know if I can even get all of this out in an hour, or if we'll even touch upon some of the most critical parts, but hopefully what we talk about today will give you an opportunity to walk into those more critical parts so that you're able to really see where it begins, how it starts, how it shows up for you, and be able to start to work those parts into whatever's going on in your life right now. And again, these satsangs are not implying that anything is wrong with your life. It's implying that things are right with your life, that there is a design, there is something that's happening. And what we're looking for is information that shows us and tells us how to connect the seemingly disconnected, even though it's all connected. How do we connect the things? How do we get past our tough spots? How do we move forward through our challenges in a way that is still empowering to us and allows us the ability to be able to move forward powerfully in what it is we envision? So timing, how does timing play into consciousness? I want to see your answers first. A lot of times I like to go into these conversations, but it's really, really helpful when you all have answers or you have ideas of things so that we can, again, meet each other where we are. Timing, what does timing mean? How does timing apply to consciousness? What role does timing have in the consciousness that you are walking in currently? What role do you see it having? There are no wrong answers. These are your answers. Drop that in the comments below. Let me know what role timing has, or what have you noticed about timing in your current life that you're living as it relates to what you are aware of and conscious of? While you are dropping that in the comments, I will share that there was a time in my life where, lots of time, right? There was a time in my life where I would notice things happening and I wasn't really sure why they seemed connected, and they seemed to be random, or different things seemed to be happening. And I just would notice that this thing happened in my life and this thing happened in my life, but maybe they were really close together. Or at another occasion, this thing happened and I remember saying something and then it either immediately happened or happened with a delay. And I couldn't really at this time in my life understand what was the significance of those things happening when they happened. And that's precisely what we're talking about. What role of consciousness does timing play? We'll even say awareness. What role does timing play as it relates to awareness? How do we get into that space where we start to understand and decipher or even decode timing as things are happening, so that we don't look back and say, oh, that's why that happened before this happened back then there somewhere. We want to be more abreast of these things as they're happening. So this doesn't mean that you're not already in awareness. I'm actually believing you are in awareness, which is why I'm asking for your responses. And so we have a couple. Timing equals alignment. Yes, I do believe that we sometimes think that our world is like random and jumbled and chaotic, and that there's something that's putting it together, or it's our responsibility to put it together. But what if it's already together and we just don't have the codes? We just don't know why they happen together. We don't have the answers behind why they're happening. And so it's about us getting it together. So when you start to align and you start to look at not only how things are happening, but what things are happening, then you get into the space of recognizing that these things are all related, right? So timing equals alignment, absolutely. Timing reflects an order of experience that precedes understanding and awareness. Timing reflects an order of experience that precedes understanding and awareness. Absolutely, right? So things are already happening, as we just said, things are already happening in their time. And then it becomes time for us to figure out why they happened at this time. So it becomes a code or a message or a big picture that's unfolding. So think about where we are right now, okay? And this is just an example I think everybody can relate to, so I'll run with it. Think about where we are right now. We are here in what we call the year 2020. We are here in different parts of the world, and many of us are experiencing similar things. Many of us are experiencing a kind of disconnected, a sort of jumbled, uh, unimaginable, non-decipherable existence, right? And if you think about that, you think about this in the respect that we didn't necessarily plan to be here. We didn't necessarily ask for it by name. None of us necessarily saw it coming with the force that it came with. Some of us had an inkling and then it got really, really different. So we're looking at what is it that we walked into when we came into this new year? What did we walk into, right? And I want us to just take a look at the timing. There's a meme that's going around. It's a box. It's a square grid. And it shows each month of the year that has happened thus far. And you take whoever's account it is, they take a picture of themselves with a different expression for each month of the year, just kind of recognizing like, wow, this is how I felt in January. Totally different expression than March. And then even the same expression through, June, July, and August thus far. And so I love that meme because it really is something that took a lot of us by surprise. And when I say it, this is not a specific it to a group of people. This is just an it. And that means that each of us have a very different idea of what that it is, right? For some of you, that it is like, man, I didn't know the 1960s was coming back to the 20s. I had no idea that politics would start flipping and flopping like this. Some of you are like, man, the environment really got to heal, or, it was jacked up in a certain part of the, in my experience, in my environment, and now it's better, or, the job, the financial situations, the illnesses, the sicknesses, the people who have left the planet. Like, all of these are things that I don't think any of us could have written this story and known that this story would end up this way, right? And so what I challenge each of us to think is, it's not ending this way. It is giving us this period, this timing is specific for something. And as we move forward, we will realize that this timing is propelling us into another time. We are literally creating another time in our responses to this time now. And this is why timing and consciousness are going together and why we're talking about it today. The idea that who you are today, in this exact moment, what you give your attention and focus to, who it is that you talk to, what you look at, what you talk about, what you invest your dollars in, what you're paying attention to, how you're observing life happening. All of these things are perfect for creating what our next time is that we're walking into. Let's move all unknown factors to the side, right? We can't decide what other people are going to do. We can put in our vote or our votes. We can say how we feel, but we cannot decide what other people are going to do. The only thing we can decide as it relates to this is what we're going to do, right? And what we're going to do, what we're putting our energy and our time, our dollars, as I said, is so critically important because it is creating the next experience for us. And by for us, I'm speaking individually as part of the collective. What we are investing our time into is creating the new time ahead. It is creating the time we are walking into. And for a lot of you, that might not seem positive. It may say, I don't want this to continue. I feel horrible during this time. I feel out of alignment. I don't feel good about what's happening now. I'm not a fan. I don't even like talking about it, right? If that's you, I have some wonderful news for you as well. What is happening in this time is you are getting very resolute and strong about what it is that you will and won't allow, about what it is that you do or do not like, and about what it is that you may or may not be capable of doing, right? We are becoming designers during this time. We are becoming designers, right? So in this time, there may be things that we have done or have participated in that don't quite weave right with what it is that we want to create. They're not necessarily in alignment. They're not necessarily lined up in this orderly way, right? But in the chaos that is happening, in the chaos that may be the world right now, is it possible for each of us to find something that speaks strong enough that it grasps us into a state of consciousness where we realize, I got a clue with something that happened. It's not a clue I was aware of before. It's not something that I necessarily brought upon myself. It appeared in my environment. It is talking directly to me. And this clue is something that I can hold on to that gives me an indication of how I can move forward. In the comments, if you understand what I'm saying thus far, drop something in the comments to let me know of any clues that you may be getting during this time that are helping you to understand of what may be possible to come for you. So clues would be anything like this opportunity that landed in your lap, or something that was taken away from you that you value, you were holding on to tightly, and then you realize maybe you didn't need it, or that it was not as important as you thought it was, or you became creative or became a designer because something in your environment changed, and instead of you staying stuck and stagnant, you rolled with it and decided to come up with something new that allowed you to have more freedom and more expression and more security on your own terms in your life. This is what we're talking about. We're supremely talking about how these clues in our environment give us an opportunity to know what's happening and to move forward in that knowing. So I'll give you one example for me. When it comes to timing, I think about what I was doing before this pandemic began. In terms of where we were ordered to shelter at home here in Chicago, I think about who I was and what I was doing. And it's almost in a certain way indiscernible to me right now, not because so much has changed and I'm so different, because I think differently. I understood at the beginning of that why I have been doing all of this work I've been doing all these years, why I wanted people to have these tools before there was a crisis, why I wanted to make sure that I took people places and showed people things and guided people, and people worked with me and helped me and empowered me and gave me a platform and a place to say these things before we need them. We never want to hear the things once it's too late. We never want to wait until we're in peril to come up with solutions. We always want to be proactive. And I'm saying this as an affirmative. We love to be proactive about things, but that might not necessarily be how we've been functioning. Because of survival, a lot of us have not been functioning proactively. We've been functioning of the moment, of the flight. right? And so what we're talking about is, how do you start to be proactive so that when a time where physical circumstances changes comes and shows up in your life, you're not caught in the flux of that. You're not making that who you are and what life is about and how you're supposed to function. You're deciding that when things show up in your life in the physical, because we are multidimensional beings, when things show up in the physical, we're already ahead. And I don't mean ahead like in a snooty way. I don't mean that, but anything other than what I'm saying. We're already ahead. The physical is the last to manifest. I say this to my students all the time. It is the last manifestation. You don't know what's going on until something physical manifests, right? Unless you are ahead and working how to see in the dark, how to deal with the shadows, how to come into your own without the crisis. Isn't it beautiful to be able to think like, okay, if somebody told you this pandemic is going to happen in 2021, that you would be preparing yourself now for what you think was going to happen then, right? Wouldn't that be so much better than waiting until something happens and then being caught off guard and not knowing how to function, right? And I'm saying this with the utmost of compassion. I know people have been having a challenging time, whether that is just, balance in life or whether that is mentality. And that's why we're talking about consciousness. That's why we're talking about divine timing. I want everybody to imagine that this timing is shaping you up for what you yet don't know is ahead. And that doesn't have to be doom or gloom. I'm just saying that this time is shaping you up. What can you do in this time with all the things you can't do, all the things that are limited, all the things that are not open? What can you be doing with where you are right now and where you are sitting, how you are moving right now? Is there something that needs to be shaped differently about that? Is there something that's going on in your current life that needs to be discarded? And do you need to end the cycle that you thought you would be continuing for several years? Are you being responsive to the time? Are you allowing yourself the ability to say that whatever is happening in this time, I can see through it? Not torturing yourself and taking it and just saying, oh, I just have to do this. I hate it. And that's just what I have to do. But loving it. That's what I'm talking about. Can you love the opportunities that were not able to be present in a previous time in this time? Are you able to say, man, I have more time to do this, this, and that? Man, I noticed that just when I was about to run out of money, this showed up. Or just when I thought I was done, these people showed up in my life. Or just when I needed to hear a message, it came on time, right? Being able to recognize that there are certain things that do happen and the timing is right for you. It doesn't mean anyone else in your circle or your cipher understands the messages you get because they're for you. They get their own. And you may even share certain messages, right? But it's not about trying to make sure everybody gets the same message because everybody's not living the same life. And so when we talk about individuality, all of us have wonderful time. And you may see people growing and flourishing during this time and see other people who seem like they are holding on by a thread during this time and feel the same steadiness, looking at the people holding on by a thread, looking at the people who are flourishing and saying, where can I get more of the flourishing in my life? And where can I be more compassionate with the thread folks? Because I know I'm not holding on by a thread. I have a different outlook. How can I share that light? How can I invite people into the light? How can I get more people to understand there is another option outside of what's being practically presented? These are such important questions. This kind of stuff juices me up because there are not only signs and symbols, but there is timing present in all of the things that are happening. And I'm talking about with your physical body, in your personal world. I'm talking about your spiritual journey. What are the things that are changing? And I'm talking about the global picture of what is happening in our world, what is happening at large. These are things we have to pay attention to. It's so critically important to pay attention to the timing. One of the ways I pay attention to the timing, you all probably can guess it. I journal it. I write things down. I have weekly goals, daily goals, monthly goals, quarterly goals. I am constantly looking at my life, and I am not the organized by the book person by any stretch of the imagination. But I have found that I can locate and pin a time that I can infer something else when I'm looking at it. So my calendar not only has the dates and the month and my appointments and my schedules and when do I talk to this client, when do I go online, but it also has the moon cycles. It also has the meanings and the things that I saw on certain days. It's connecting and interconnecting all of this rich information and data that's happening around us all the time that we're like, I don't know what to do. We don't have to know what to do. We just have to know that we can do something. That's it. You don't have to have the whole blueprint. Follow one clue and it will begin to start to stitch the other pieces together. Trust yourself is what I'm saying. Trust yourself. Don't get swept away in the crisis of it all. It is a crisis, but don't get swept away in it. Remember that you were someone before the crisis and you're still here. And hopefully you still have a desire to be here. So there is still something to do. And bless your stars that you are still here, right? And then show up like you're happy to still be here. Find out what that thing is that you still have to do that maybe was not something that was on your radar in January or February. Maybe it was starting to become on your radar around March, and maybe now it is permanently on your radar here in the month we call August. So I'm gonna go back and look at some of your comments because you all were typing. So I wanna make sure that I definitely recognize the comments. I asked you to start to give an idea of some of these clues and things that are happening. First comment I see, realize my gift while I have been searching for a passion, being still and connecting the dots help. It had been under my nose the whole time, but until we are all forced to be still, I didn't give it acknowledgement. Excellent, right? Because how rich are we, right? I'm gonna talk about our richness as humans. We are rich, okay? We are rich. We not only have material resources that are at our disposal, but we have what I call inner wealth, cultural wealth. These are the things that might not be presented cleanly and plainly for you, but that if you are connecting these dots, if you are paying attention to the timing, they start to tell a story. We're all living inside of our own story. Is it the story we want to live inside of? This is what we're talking about. You got to start connecting these dots. Right before the order, I was moving forward with growing a business. The pandemic shut me down, but I became pregnant, which has allowed me to take a step back and nurture myself and realize a new life. I'm guessing new direction for my business when I get back to it. You know what? Bless this comment, y'all, because a lot of times we believe that the direction we're going, first of all, congrats, okay? But we believe the direction we're going is the direction we're supposed to go because that's where we're going. That's where we ended up. That's where we landed. So this must be it, right? Sometimes we are unwilling to let go of thoughts, or our consciousness doesn't allow us to nurture certain thoughts for a length of time beyond their expiration date. And so what the universe does, it doesn't snatch anything from us. What the universe does is present another option, right? It presents a switch. I was just telling someone the other day, I think it was my beloved I was talking to, and I said, you know, there is nothing that dies without something new showing up. This is something to pay attention to in this talk about timing. It is very possible that as soon as you see something ending, you just need to look for what's beginning. It doesn't mean that they're related in your mind. It doesn't mean that they happen in the same time frame, but just know that every time something is ending, something new is sprouting forth. So you don't have to look at the ending and see it as the end all be all. There's no lack in this universe, right? If there's no lack, if we are all rich and built and bore in richness, if we are all internally wealthy, all we have to do is look for the sign that something that moved away that maybe we were trying to hold on or trying to do, allowed the space for something new to come in that we wanted even more. And we just weren't courageous or brave enough or conscious enough or aware enough to let it go willingly, and it let itself go, right? I don't want to sound too brushing it over and making it all beautiful. I do want to sound truthful to my experience, to my path, and to the people that I work with and the people that I know. And I always notice those beginnings and new endings, and how there's sometimes a gap between the two, but it always, every ending always has a new beginning, right? We just have to be conscious enough to say, I see the divine timing in this. I won't fight it. That's the most important part, right? All right, thank you for these comments. They're beautiful. My being shut down, forcing me to rest and rejuvenate so that I was prepared for has come now and what is ahead. Prepare for what has come now and what is ahead. Absolutely, right? So being shut down, the idea of being shut down, some of us fight from a shutdown. We be like, you know what, you're not gonna shut me down, right? And we fight and we go forward with more force and more speed and more gusto, and we grab our egos by the reins and say, let's go get them, you know? And then some of us, when we get shut down, we take a breath, we take a moment and be like, now what's really going on? Why is this happening now? I know I've visioned, I've talked about it, I've affirmed, I've prayed, I've meditated, I've shouted, I've put the work in. Why would this be happening now? These are the questions we have to ask ourselves and look for the clues and the things that give us answers, because it's not like someone's going to whisper it to you and tell you, but the universe might. You might have something show up in your life that says, oh, that's why that happened, because there's no way I could have done this if I was still stuck on doing this. There's no way I could get to people this way or get to my family or love on my family when I'm stuck in the paradigm of everybody goes to work, everybody goes to school, we eat dinner together, go to sleep, do it again. You can't really get that rich love in 2 days of a week when you're not spending time with your family. Some people have spent more time with their family in 2020 than they have their entire lives, y'all. Damn. You know, it's like at the end of the day, you have to realize that these things are opening up things that we weren't able to touch. There are gifts and presents that are being opened that have been sitting under somebody else's tree. And we said, that's their life. I don't do that. But why aren't we complete whole beings in our own lives? And so this opportunity has allowed us to round out our experience so that when we see this timing, we use each cycle. We use each season. We use each closing and opening opportunity as a gift to experience something that keeps us from being stuck and keeps us from being complacent and comfortable in a life that is intended to move. Our lives are intended to move. They're not intended to get to a destination and say, yep, that's it. They're intended to move. And so that movement definitely does look like the different things that happen that start to nudge and push and pull and move you and agitate you sometimes and frustrate you other times and coax you other times and hold you comfortably and securely in its bosom at other times, right? We have the complete experience. We just have to acknowledge it. Beautiful, beautiful comments. The love that really comes from surrendering and releasing the perfect situation. Yeah, man, the perfect situation is where you are, right? And if we know that, then we know that there's always another option when we don't necessarily like the story that's playing before our eyes, right? We don't like the story. Does it mean that that's the only narrative that's present? No, it means that's the story people are holding on to. That's the one people are promoting. That's the one people are talking about. Are there other versions of this story? Can we be resolute storytellers in this narrative? Is it possible that you see another story and no one's speaking for yours? Maybe it's you that has to speak. Sis, yes, right on. The message is for me. I have a different outlook. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's all this is really about, right? We awaken each other when we decide to be these kind of people that are autonomous, that understand our imaginative and creative power. When we decide to sit in our spirit and allow our souls to express and speak, there is nothing that we can't touch. It just is when we decide that we are limited in some way that we feel restricted and we start to shut down. So if the world shuts down, does that mean individually we have to shut down? It means no, we have to shut down the external reaching and looking. And then we open up the internal reaching and looking. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Telling myself the absolute truth about myself, unproductive mindsets and habits. Basically, I've installed Norton and I'm scanning my being for all viruses hindering my growth and process. I love this comment. Thank you for this comment, Tiffany. This comment is so great to me because this is how life works, right? When we see something happening externally in a particular period of time, the immediate thing that I do that helps me so beautifully, and I hope a lot of you here understand what I'm saying, is that you immediately take that mirror and look back. If it's a virus out there, that means there's a virus in here. And not just you. That means the collective has a virus, not just the virus that exists physically. That means there is a mental virus. There's a spiritual virus. There's a virus of the heart and the mind. Something is disconnected, right? And I'm not making light of the situation at all. I'm saying that everything that we can see reflects back to us things that we cannot physically see. But it is up to us to start to increase the ways that we see. When we start to increase the ways that we start to see beyond what can be tangibly touched and molded. And we start to do some molding in those back offices, right? So I'm thinking about this in terms of what you said, Tiffany, if you got the Norton, you're scanning for all the viruses, you're looking for all the things that make you sick, make you ill, don't belong, don't work, don't go together, don't connect, don't feel good, don't belong here, and the cycle is over. You're looking for those things to kind of usher them out. Put them in a folder and send them on their way. It doesn't belong here. This system can't function with those things, right? And so that's what we're looking at. We're looking at how the external environment reflects about the work we really have to do inside. That inner work that this month actually helps us to bring forward. What is that inner work that's still incomplete, that still needs our attention? What are all of the rough edges that still need our nurturing care within ourselves? That's what this is about. Absolutely. All right. Stick to my guns about my standards and being my authentic self everywhere. Absolutely. Being your authentic self is the biggest gift you can give to humanity, because you literally came here to be you, right? So if you literally came here to be you, what are we wasting time doing? Being like other people, trying to be other people, trying to do what other people say we should do? Isn't there some exploration involved in that? And we're going to talk about that, I believe, week 4. Talk about how the exploration opens up. But just this idea that who we are and how it is that we function is really up to us. We are the creators and the Imagineers. So if you think about what a lot of us have looked at, uniformity has been so heavily promoted, right? Uniformity is so heavily promoted upon us. Everyone should be doing this. Everyone should be saying that. Everyone should be feeling this way. And then it kind of sets up some disconnect, because we know somewhere in there is a lie, right? Because we're all individuals. Yes, we can absolutely come together, but are we coming together in our uniqueness? Are we coming together in a sense of groupthink that allows us to constantly defer to other people's opinions and ideas? Even this idea that I'm presenting on this broadcast, if you don't like it, throw it out. But I'm saying that we all have an ability to be someone that can start to mold and create something that works so beautifully for who we are and how we are, that we can recognize if the messages outside of ourselves are really relevant to what we're here to do. It takes time, y'all. Please be patient with yourselves. Don't get into the rut of, well, it's not happening fast enough, so it's not going to happen. Timing. Everything divine happens in divine time. And even things that are not divine happen in divine time. What we can't do is question the timing and say that what is happening is somehow messed up. That's a distraction. These people in power are messed up. Yep, might be. That's a distraction. What we're looking at is, and what are you going to do while these messed up things are going to happen? Are you going to stand by? Are you going to watch? Know that we are in that time. Are you going to continue putting your energy and voting into the things that don't make sense and don't work for you? Are you going to take a stand for yourself and what you believe to be true, what you may have studied, practiced, and known through your experience to be true? Or do you just jump in with the group because that's what everybody's doing and they're where everybody's going? It's so important to recognize the difference. And so another thing that we recognize in timing, and especially as we're talking about divine timing, we recognize that there are certain things that have to phase out. Think of your life as a nice, wonderful platter, right? You have this platter. It's the roundest, most sturdy, metallic, vibrant, shiny platter, okay? And you have this platter. And right now, it's just sitting on the table. It's got some stuff on it, right? It doesn't have to be food. It can be things that exist on a platter, but you've got this platter. And what's happening with this platter is you are really trying to decide what belongs on it and what does not. And so in the beginning, you just put what happens in your life. Yep, these are all the things that belong in my life because they're here. Yep, they absolutely do. And then you get to a point where you're like looking at it and you're like, I actually don't like these things. These things don't make these things look so great, but it's still in your platter. And so who's going to take it off? Are you waiting for someone to fire you from the job? Are you waiting for the person in a relationship to leave you? Are you waiting for people to be nicer and kinder in the world before you start? Are you waiting for someone to be vulnerable with you before you decide to tell them how you really feel? Are you waiting for some miracle to occur that will make something fall in your lap to step up into the strength of who you are? Or are you going to take the challenge and do it? And so as it relates to this metaphor of a platter, you start removing things from the platter that just don't belong. You're like, this is tacky. I'm taking this off. This doesn't work with me. This has to go. And you're making these decisions based on your alignment. You're making these decisions based on what you already understand to be true. It may not be what you understood to be true back there. So now you have the opportunity and the possibility, I was trying to put them together, opportunity and the possibility to make these things true for your life. So then eventually, and it doesn't happen all at once, eventually what's on your platter might start to actually feel and look like what you know, what you value. But the most important thing is to not get caught up in a previous version of you. Look at the timing starting to strip away from the outside some of those fibers of you and saying, I don't know who I am, or saying, I'm not myself, or saying, I don't exist in the way that I understood myself, and therefore I don't know who I am. It's important to know that those fibers, that outside, that if you have something that has a coat of paint on it and that paint starts to chip, it doesn't change what's under the paint. That's the paint. And so you can chip that paint off, you can sand it down, you can put a new color on, you can decide to give it its natural luster before you put the paint on it. You can do all kinds of things, but you still have what's under the paint. This is what's happening in our lives right now. Don't get fooled by the things that have to peel back and move away so that you can emerge. Don't decide that it's not time for that when it's happening. Decide that it is time for that. Flow with that. Flow with the fact, like, man, these things are moving for a reason. I don't want to keep holding on to things that other people are stripping, or other things are stripped away from me. I don't want to keep trying to hold them because they're going to drag me with it, right? We don't want to be dragged. We want to get into the place where we realize proactively that timing occurs, seasons, cycles occur. Things that are divinely designed happen at specific times. And if you decide that if it tries to leave you, you're going to drag it, you're going to go dragging with it, then that is on you. But if you also decide on the flip side, I don't know how I feel about it, I don't feel real good about it, but I trust with a capital T that there's something else going on, just maybe I don't understand yet, then you're in the rhythm of what we're talking about here. It doesn't mean you give stuff up that works for you. It doesn't mean that everything you thought works for you still works for you. Does that make sense, y'all? You want to make sure that what you are cultivating is intentional, and what it is that you release versus what you keep is designing piece by piece the kind of existence that you know deep in your heart and your spirit and your soul is 1,000% or 100% you, right? It's the authentic you. So this is all I'm saying. I'm saying that divine timing shows up a different way. So I actually have a question for you all now. As it relates to what's going on in the world, if this pandemic were not happening right now, knowing what you were knowing, let's say the world opens up tomorrow and you're able to do whatever you want to do, all things restored, right? This is imaginary, but I want you to imagine this. Knowing what you know now, what is the first thing you would do tomorrow? Drop that in the comments. What would you do on the day the world opens up? What would you do? Where would you find yourself? What role would you be in? What have you learned from these previous months that tell you who you could be, how you could be? What are the things that you were scared to do before that feel more urgent now? What are the things that maybe you didn't spend a lot of time doing that maybe now you spend more time doing? The world opens up tomorrow. So I'm not talking about your inner work because you've been doing that, hopefully. And if not, it's not too late. I'm talking about the world opens up tomorrow. How would who you know yourself to be now express yourself in that world? Please drop this in the comments. This is an important, I see you, Mel, go to yoga class. I know y'all been roasting me for not having our Sunday meetings doing yoga, but here's one thing I want to say about this. The things that, you know, for those of you that don't know me this way, for the past 5 years on the south side of Chicago, we have met in this beautiful glass building called Dorchester Art and Housing Center. It's the Art Center, and we have met, and we met for 2 hours on Sundays, and we'd be doing yoga together, talking about these things. We'd have this talk before we would start, and then we would also, you know, like kind of hang out afterwards. And so what we, sorry about that. So what we realized is that while we're doing these things, we really got used to each other. We really, you know, formed a community, and we're together all the time. And so since March, we have not been meeting in that space. We have not been together. But what I've been telling everybody is the same thing. There's a timing and a cycle for everything. Those that took full advantage of those 5 years are in a totally different spot than those who are like, I'm gonna come one day, I'm gonna check it out, right? In a totally different spot. No judgment, no harm, no foul. But There are times and cycles for things. It doesn't mean you can't go to somebody else for yoga. It doesn't mean that I'm not still practicing. It simply means there are timings and cycles for things, which means if that was something that existed and it doesn't exist now, what is the pay forward upgrade of that? How do you continue to work? And I'm working on something for all of us who are looking to continue to work. It's going to be beautiful. Wait for the divine timing. It's coming. But it's the idea that you may have changed the way that you operate and now you need something else. To me now, mental consciousness is way stronger than the physical practice if the mental consciousness was not a part of the physical practice. If it was all together, beautiful. But realistically, we got to work on our minds because that's what's under attack. We got to work on our spiritual selves. That's what's under attack. That's what's being compromised during times like this. We got to get those thoughts in order. We got to line them up, so that whether we're doing yoga or out in the world or whatever it is that this list that you all are writing that I'm about to read, we are in proper mind state for that, right? We need to be in proper mind state for that. So what I see here, thank you for that comment though, Mel. I feel the love. I be at the beach. Yes, the beach is something we can never imagine the idea of nature being shut down, right? Like, doesn't that sound crazy? Nature is going to be shut down. Why? You know, nature exists, but it's the people, it's the gathering, it's the community around the things that are natural that are being limited, right? It's the way we used to commune that is being limited and changed and not giving us the opportunity to do it, okay? I'd be traveling and seeing people I took for granted I'd see at some point. Absolutely, right? Absolutely, because now we realize just how much we took for granted. We realize how much freedom we actually did have, how many luxuries were afoot, and that we would just pick them up and put them down in our busyness when we felt like it, that it wasn't really a priority. And so part of this work is about connecting. I call it soul healing because not only are we connecting with others, but we're connecting with the deepest, most inner parts of ourselves so that we can heal up some things and start to show up differently. We can make our egos, acknowledge our egos, but make them less important than what we came here to express, right? We can step into things differently when we know all that's happening in here. So I love that comment. People that I took for granted that I'd see at some point. What if the world didn't open back up? How would we connect then, right? And so we even make an assumption that it will open back up, right? We hope that it will open back up. But there's this idea that these changes are not really fully in our power and that what we can do is in our power. And I love the role that technology has played as we've been doing that. Yep, I'd be traveling. Absolutely. Go visit my mom and eat lunch with her because she is in a nursing home and can only be seen outside. Jazz, cries, and live music. Yeah, that's challenging, right? That's challenging because people who are in situations where they're already enclosed into a space may not have the same kind of frustrations because they're not used to going outside in the same way. But there could be a whole other set of frustrations, the loss of visitors, the loss of human touch. That's a really, really, really tender thing. And so I understand that, you know, just the idea of communing together close, intimately again. How can we create that without the world opening up is the question. Go to a party, take an international flight. Yeah, I'm missing the international travel. I'm definitely missing the parties because that is another form of communion where we all come together and feel the spirit and move to it and move our bodies. And so, yes, there are other ways to move our bodies. There are other ways to feel the spirit. We got lots of DJs online. We've got new music we found out about during the pandemic. All of those things are happening. But it's also like, again, everything we're talking about involves some sense of community and exploration, which, like I said, is an upcoming topic for this overall series in consciousness. Thank you all for sharing. What I would like to say at this point is here are some things to pay attention to. If you are sourcing, well, you know, Stacy, I hear you talk about divine timing. I'm not sure what that looks like. I don't want you to have to feel like you have to guess. So I'll share some things that are gems that I know are ways in which timing speaks to us, okay? So the first one was the one that I said earlier. Something ends. Something ends. We don't understand why it ends, whether it's an opportunity, a relationship, a person we love leaving this planet, going to another realm, living in another realm. We don't necessarily understand the ending, whether it's losing a business or a home or a source of income. These are all really critical things. And so we have to be sure to acknowledge on our own terms the level and the depth to which they affect us, to not gloss it over, to not make it, well, get over it and keep moving. I'm not saying that at all. We have to be conscious that even there's a reason in that. And even if we don't understand the reason and don't know the parameters that govern the reason, what we can look for is what is the opening. Because this is where I talk about channeling, right? If something ends, and it was something I had a lot of love for and a lot of energy with, wound up in, again, whether it was a person or thing or opportunity or security of some sort, what I'm going to ask myself at a point is, how can I channel that energy? That's just an open-ended question that I would ask myself. What can I do with this energy? What can I do with this seeming void or hole that I feel? What can I do that helps me to bridge this gap? What is there possible from me that can happen that allows me the same kind of security that I wanted to feel? That's the first thing that I would think about, right? And then the next question might come, do I need to feel that way again? Can I just let that be that? Can I respect what that was for what it was in my life and all that it gave to me? Or do I need to be trying to recreate this in another way? When it relates to timing, I say, you just need to know about the energy. You just need to know that that's how you feel about it. That's what's with you. And there is something that you can do with that energy. That energy can continue. This is why when people leave the planet, people open up and they do tributes and memorials, and they, put people's names on buildings. They start causes and organizations with people's names. This is not just, I want people to know who this person is. This is a continuing of that energy. My father, who was very much a sage in his own right, and how he moved through the world and operated in his consciousness and understanding, is how I am continuing to help other people. What he gave in that respect was so freaking helpful to me. I can't help but to give it. It's in me. I don't know what to do with it. It hasn't always been something I've shared. It's always been like my private world. And now it's getting louder and louder and louder. Not because I miss him, because I can't miss him, because he's right here. He's here. But I also recognize that these are things that it would be selfish to hold on to. It'd be selfish to just keep it to myself. When people seem to need it, people seem to need the affirmation the same way that I did, the same way that I do. Right? So this is an idea of the energy continues. So look for where that energy can be channeled. Don't let it die. Look for where it can be channeled. If it's a not good energy, look for how you can love yourself a little better, a little louder, how you can pour more love into the wound so that you're not finding yourself at a deficit and trying to grab anything that will make you feel better temporarily, right? That's what the whole picture is about. As it relates to things that happen in your life, one of the most important things you can do is pay attention to the accumulation. Things tend to accumulate. This is a timing principle. Things that we don't pay attention to tend to accumulate, and some of them just sit there stagnant. What we do pay attention to tends to grow and expand. So as it relates to the accumulation, you're wondering, well, I wasn't paying attention to it. How did that grow and expand? It didn't necessarily expand. It just accumulated, meaning it's compacted. It's stacked on top of each other, right? This is the equivalent of if you just keep trying to eat food and you haven't released any of it. I don't mean to get grimy with the example, but if you continue to eat and nothing's come out, when are you going to address the backup? When are you going to address why you feel the way you feel? It's because things are not moving. Timing is about motion. It's about movement. A lot of people will tell you there's no such thing as time, and that's an acceptable theory as well. What I'm saying about timing is that there is a rhythm in our universe, that things show up at different points on the spectrum in this rhythm. And the more we are in tune with the rhythm, the more we understand the things that show up in that rhythm. The more we are in tune with our sense of peace and our sense of openness and our desire to be free, the more we understand why the butterfly came and landed on our shoulder. The more we understand why there are signs in nature that happen upon us. The more we marvel at the things that are natural that we didn't know that existed. The more that we feel connected to others when we realize we're not the only person going through or feeling a feeling at the same time. That's why memes are so fabulous, right? Because lots of people have that thought. And then when you see the meme, you love it because you're like, that's hilarious. I had that exact thought, but they made it funnier, right? Timing happens in all kinds of ways. So we're just looking for that rhythm. And so I ask you all, what is the rhythm of your universe? Not the universe, but your universe, because everybody might have a different answer. What is the rhythm of the universe? If we know what we're tuning into, and we know that we need to tune into the rhythm with the universe, what is the rhythm of your universe? How does it move? How does it feel? How does it look? What is the rhythm of your universe? My rhythm of my universe is very, it's colorful, it's punchy, it's kind of fiery and natural and fluid, right? It's a term I call soul flow. It's the ability to know that things are always going to be moving and changing. No universe is going to be still. It's too dynamic to be still. It's too much going on for stillness. So the rhythm of the universe looks like things in constant motion. Do I resist that motion or do I jump into that motion? That's the question. Do I resist it or do I jump into it? When I'm in rhythm with the universe, I may observe it and then I get into it. But if I resist it, am I in rhythm with the universe? And my answer to that for my universe is no. When I resist it, when I say there's no way this is going to happen, or there's no way this is possible, or I've been looking too long and it ain't shown up yet, or man, I'm done, I'm tired, I'm frustrated, I don't know, I just throw my hands up, I give up. That's not in rhythm with the universe. The rhythm of the universe is inherently abundant. It's as wealthy, if not more rich than you recognize yourself to be, and it is always available to you. The rhythm of the universe is not rejecting you. The rhythm of the universe is not saying you're unimportant. The rhythm of the universe is not saying what you think and feel doesn't matter. The rhythm of the universe is beckoning you. It's saying, come on out. Come full out. Not partially, not a little bit, come full out. Allow who you are to not only shine, but to see the light of day. Let that come on out. Let it emerge. Don't hold it back. Don't wait for someone else to say it when you knew it 5 years ago. Do it, damn it. Sometimes you get a little tough love from the universe, right? And I say tough love because we don't understand why things are happening and why everything's pulling away and coming apart. And we're like, what's going on? That's that love. That's like, leave that alone. Come on out. And so when we start to recognize that timing works that way, that we can be sitting in something that has already expired and not know that it's expired, or see the date has expired, but we're still waiting for the smell to say, oh, this is old. You don't have to wait till it stinks to let it go. Sometimes you know it stinks when you walked up on it. It was stale when you walked up on it, right? And I'm using these as metaphors. These are fun metaphors for me, right? But sometimes it stunk from the start. And what you were trying to do is improve its smell. You were trying to make it better, make it more appealing, more attractive, make a project. And the truth of the matter is, it didn't need your hands on it because the nature of it was that it stunk. It wasn't nothing wrong with it. That is its nature. It is taking its natural course. And sometimes our lives are just like that funky thing that starts to curdle, mold, or decompose otherwise. Not our lives as in our livelihood, our lifeblood, but our lives as in the things that we have in our lives that are ready to go. Are you willing to let them go? What is the rhythm of your universe? Are you in tune with it? Are you willing to let go of the things that no longer belong, that you are consciously aware that don't belong? So your idea of timing and consciousness may have to shift. You may have to be more observant and talk less. This has been a week of that for me. I have to talk less. I give a lot of energy and sometimes I gotta shut up because I'm missing things when I'm talking, right? And so I start to pull back and say, for as many hours as I spend talking to people, my clients, people online, doing these satsangs, doing different things for others, I have to be more quiet with myself. That's why I write. I have to be more quiet. Turn the volume down sometimes. Allow what is existing to exist and allow myself to be in it with it and watch it, observe it, feel it, and not get bent out of shape about the nuances that I realize are changing before my very eyes. Knowing that those nuances are changing because it is their time to change. Knowing that I am blossoming because it is my time that I am ripening. Knowing that people are possibly annoying because they are awakening and realizing that that timing, it looks different because they're awakening at different times. It's like popcorn. Everybody doesn't awaken at the same time. And that if we can be compassionate with ourselves, we can certainly be passionate with those who could possibly annoy us and realize that their awakening is happening. So this is all we're saying today. This is what this entire satsang is about. It's about consciousness related to time. Last week was consciousness related to spiritual tools. What are the tools you need to support? This week, we're talking about consciousness related to time and divine timing. We have to call it divine timing sometime because we need that first word as a reminder that it is meant, it is designed. It's not an accident. It's not a coincidence. It is meant, it is designed. What will we do with that data? What will we do with that material? How will we carry forward? It's possible you're an artist or you're an employee and you're not comfortable with the way you've been doing things. Isn't that possible in creation? That the way you've been doing things is not the way to continue? Isn't that okay? It's okay. I'm saying it's okay. I know you'll meet other people that'll tell you it's okay. And then you know those unapologetic people that just don't care what you think about them and do what they want to do anyway? Those are your heroes right now. Those are your heroes right now. And I'm not saying you call them your heroes, but observe them differently. Observe those people who are like always changing and doing things that are seemingly rants or seemingly, oh, they done lost their mind. Pay attention to those people. Pay attention to those people. Observe them. I'm not saying be like them. Observe them. Because in your observation, you may see something else about timing and consciousness. You may see a person who has made themselves less important so that what they really feel can come out. You may see a person who has made themselves less invisible so that there is another alternative to all that's going on. Timing is like that. And if you're an artist, a creator, someone's employee, valued or undervalued, I'm just speaking to you as a person who has the ability to create, a person who has the ability to imagine, and a person who has the ability to change and change gracefully and beautifully. I'm saying to you, be okay. If the way that you have been created, if the way that you have created your life, and the way that life has presented itself in creation to you right now is no longer your goal, it's no longer your aspiration, and you want to do something else. You want to become something else. You want to give yourself an opportunity to express something else. That's okay. Start getting quiet and still and putting it together. Start spending more time with yourself and listening to what comes up for you. Start paying attention to your dreams and your visions. Start allowing yourself to be around people who you feel are great thinkers and think outside the box. Start to learn to free think. Just because this is happening, do I really believe this, or am I just conditioned to believe this? Start to explore. And I've said it so many times, I think that's next week's topic. Start to explore what else is there. We have to allow ourselves to be autonomous beings for this to work. Yes. And so as we allow ourselves to be autonomous beings, so much will come up for us that we will have to make space on that platter for. And as we begin to make space on that platter, it will be most important that we look at what's happening as a very in tune meditation. And as you come out of your meditation, that is your waking life. What decisions will you make that will be right on time? What are the decisions you will make that will be right on time? You'll feel them differently. Trust me, you'll feel them differently. They won't feel like trying to do something. They won't feel like thinking about doing something. They will emerge as naturally from you as saying your name the proper way, as letting people know what you really feel when you're pent up or get upset. They will emerge from you naturally. This is the gift, y'all. Please nurture this gift. Please allow timing to show you in your life which way to navigate and how to go and where to go. Please don't ignore it. Please don't trade it for other people's opinions. Pay attention to the timing of this time and step into it, whether it's quietly, boldly, colorfully, confidently, whatever it is, step into it in your way and watch things begin to improve. Last comment I see here. Yes, I love observing unapologetics. They can be inspiring during transformations. Yeah, man. I'm not going to tell you who one of mine is. You might be able to guess. I'm from Chicago. But one of mine, he's talking a lot right now. And you know, there's this idea that there's a craze around people who seem to do things that aren't connected. But I've been paying attention to the time with him. Pay attention to the timing. Pay attention to it. It'll tell you so much. Pay attention to what he's building. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I don't have to tell you. Pay attention to what he's building on that ranch. Go watch the video he did with Forbes about what he's building on their ranch. It'll tell you so much more. I want to thank you all so much for joining me today. Yep. I want to thank you all for joining me today. Again, my name is Stacey Patrice at Soul Yogini here. I am here next Sunday for conversation 3 of 5 of consciousness. This live will be put back up in a few moments, or go to staceypatrice.com to follow me. Thank you all so much. Peace and love. Timing.